Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my lasagna, and I always make a big batch of this so that I can freeze them. So here are the ingredients you'll need for a single recipe. 1 pound ground beef, 1 pound ground pork, 30 ounces of tomato sauce, 2 tablespoons tomato paste, 1 teaspoon Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon parsley, 1 medium onion diced, 1 large carrot diced, 1 celery stalk diced, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 4 cups milk, 1 cup butter, 1 cup flour, half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, 1/4 teaspoon nutmeg, 1 pound mozzarella cheese shredded, 1 cup Italian cheese shredded, salt and pepper to taste, and oven-ready noodles. The first thing you need to do is get that meat browned. So throw that on the stove and brown it up. Then once it's fully browned, go ahead and give it a drain. Again, I'm making a 6 times batch here, so big one. Gather your carrots, your onions, and your celery together. And then take your carrots and first peel them, then cut them into sticks, and then you're going to cross-cut them to dice them. Next, you're going to dice your onions. Same with the celery. Go ahead and take off those greens and then cross-cut it to dice. Over medium-high heat, add a little bit of oil, and I'm just using olive oil here. And then add all of your veg to the pot. Because I'm using a lot of vegetables, it's going to take me a little bit longer, but you just want to cook them until they're softened. You also want to add your garlic in, and this is garlic I've pre-minced. So it took me about 10 minutes to get to the softened stage. Maybe take a little bit less if you have a little bit less. I had a ton of cherry tomatoes, so I thought I would just cut them in half and throw them in as well to bulk up the sauce a little bit and give some freshness. This is totally optional, and I don't usually do this. I just had these on hand, so I decided to. And then again, cook it for just a couple more minutes until those cherry tomatoes start to soften as well. Then you're ready to add your meat back to the mixture. So put all of the meat back into the pot and give it a real good stir to get that veg distributed well throughout the meat. Add in your tomato paste. I'm using this can is about half empty, so I'm just throwing this in, and I added a little more later. So if you're wondering on the measurements here, this doesn't look quite right for a big batch, but throwing in my tomato paste now. And you want to cook that for a few minutes with your vegetables and meat, and that really brings out the sweetness in that tomato paste. Then add all of your tomato sauce. So here I'm throwing in all of my cans of tomato sauce, and then I like to add a splash of water to the bottom of the cup and rinse it out and then put it back in. The extra liquid helps to just keep the sauce from thickening too far. Then you want to season with your parsley and Italian seasonings. And I usually do this in 2 steps because I have a really big batch here. So I add some, I stir, and then I'll add a bit more. Then you want to simmer your sauce. So turn that heat down low and let it simmer for about an hour and stir occasionally. This brings all those flavors together. Especially if you're using this for a recipe to freeze, remove it from the heat and let it cool down. Next, melt your butter. Look how much butter this is. It's crazy when I make these big batches, how much butter it is. While your butter is getting melted, you can add in your seasonings. So add in your nutmeg. And then you also want to add in any salt and pepper you'd like to flavor this. This is going to make the white sauce or bechamel sauce that we're using in place of what a Americanized lasagna would use, like a cottage cheese or a ricotta. Add your flour and then cook for 1 minute. And this is really just cooking the flour and bringing it all together. So it'll be very thick. Try to get as many lumps out as you can. It's okay if there's a few. When we add in the milk, that'll kind of thin back out. So you can see how thick it is here. And now you want to add your milk slowly while you're whisking. If you add it all at once, you can get lots of clumps. So go ahead and add it slowly while you're whisking. Since I'm making a very big batch, I am adding a whole gallon of milk to this pot. So you'll see just how full this pot gets. And then you're going to cook it until it's thickened. And this took about 10 minutes as well for me. So here you see how thick it is. Next, we need to add our Parmesan cheese to flavor the white sauce. So you just throw your Parmesan cheese on top and mix it in until it's fully melted. Then you can remove that from the heat and let that cool as well. Set up your assembly line. So you'll want your noodles, your red sauce, your white sauce, and your cheese all in front of you with all of your pans. The first layer is a layer of red sauce, and I use just about 1 cup here. This is really just to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom and that your noodles don't get crusty. So spread it out on the bottom, and then layer number 2 is your oven-ready noodles. Normally I would make my own noodles out of regular pasta, like homemade pasta, but these were literally 15 cents a box at Aldi, so I have a ton of them. So we're using them this time. Next, layer 3 is white sauce, and this is, I think, a 1/3 cup measure. I use 2 scoops of that on each one. And then come along with a spatula and spread it out. And the last layer is layer 4 with cheese. And I use mozzarella for the layers here. It's about, I would say, maybe 3/4 to 1 cup per layer. I just go by handfuls. So this 1 pound is what was left in this bag, and that made it across all 5 of these. You don't want to overdo it with the cheese because remember there's cheese in that white sauce too. Then you just need to complete these layers 2 more times. So red sauce, noodles, white sauce, cheese. Do that twice more. But on that very last layer, you're going to just get to the white sauce. You're not going to use cheese on the last layer. And I'll show you why here in a minute. So remember I said on this very last layer, you're going to put the white sauce down, but you're not going to put the cheese on top because we want cheese to be on the very top of the lasagna. So we're going to leave the cheese off that last layer. We're just going to add red sauce right on top of the white, and then we're going to sprinkle that with cheese. And I like to, because I already had it, just use some Italian cheese. It's got a little provolone, maybe a little mozzarella and Parmesan, maybe Asiago, and it gives a little extra flavor to the top. But you could certainly just use regular mozzarella if that's what you have. Some people like just a little sprinkling of Parmesan. It doesn't matter really what cheese you want to use here. And then that's it. You're ready to get these all wrapped up. I'm freezing all of mine today, and so I'm going to wrap them in heavy-duty foil. And then you want them to cool before you put them in the freezer. So don't put them in piping hot or you'll have some condensation. So let them cool on your counter enough that they're just lukewarm maybe, and then you can put them in the freezer. I hope you give this recipe a try. Enjoy.